talking to NBL now. A massive performance down the stretch from Melbourne United. Trailed by 10 and fought their way back in. It's been the storyline of every single game this series. Down the stretch, even the one that they didn't win, Melbourne United proving very, very difficult to stop.
Having been there, done that at the highest level, the experience, the veteran leadership stood up once again. And we'll have to talk about it individually, but I think that's a collective thing. You saw the poise in the second half from Melbourne United, and the contrast when we talk about the Illawarra Hawks, I think that was part of it as well, where they were blazing away from three. They really didn't get some good looks when the team needed it. They had a lot of the bench unit on. They probably missed having their leading playmakers on at the right time, who struggled as well. But this was all about Matthew Dellavedova. He absolutely took control of this game in the second half, especially the fourth quarter. Defensively, he was a menace. You saw he was gassed, and he just found another level to continue to go to. Literally had the tempo at his fingertips like a puppet master and said, I'm putting everybody in their right spots. I'll find them when they have to. 11 assists, 0 turnovers. On the biggest stage, away from home, that's poise personified.
That's big, and I see why Dean Vickman recruits veterans. These guys have been there, like you said. They've done that. Last year, they struggled at the end, lost a championship they shouldn't have lost, and they feel like they need to come in and take this one. They're winning on the road. They're a team. You know how it is when you're a team and you against the world? Well, that's how they played tonight.
And this was very similar to game one, in where you saw Justin Tatum was trying to find a lineup that worked because Tyler Harvey and Trey Kell didn't fire in this game. So Hickey was very good. Days came in, I thought, made a really good impact. And they were having success with Days and Froling inside throughout the whole game. But you saw late, Justin Tatum was trying to get a lineup that had the poise, but they continued to blaze away from three. They continued to take some rush shots where down the other end, a rush shot, Melbourne rebound, and Delhi just took the air out of the ball, said, I'm going to hold this to the last 8 seconds. I'll find Jack White or Marcus Lee for lobs. I'll find some other shots for myself and Ian Clark, and that was the difference in this game.
Do you think the experience, now a couple of times we've noticed it towards the end of the game, it feels like Justin Tatum just tries to get a little bit too cute at times with little lineup shifts, stuff like that. Is the experience of Dean Vickman showing a little bit throughout this series?
I think it is. Look, but you can't blame Tatum because this bench has gotten them where they are today. He uses his bench a whole lot, but then the bench scored 34 points to Melbourne's 9, so they did their job. But sometimes you can play guys too much. And I'm not sitting here saying he didn't do the right thing. I'm just saying that veteran savvy from Melbourne United just took over.
Well, I think he has to make a choice, and we've seen him make contrasting choices in this postseason where he says, you know what, I'm going to roll with, if Trey Kell's not performing well, game 2 against the Phoenix, I'm going to play him the whole fourth quarter. He couldn't get them out of it, couldn't get him the win, and then we've seen the flip side where he sits him and rolls with the bench, and sometimes it doesn't pay off. So it's a tough decision, whereas Dean Vickman just says, I've got these veteran guys, no matter whether they're playing good or they're playing bad, I'm putting them in there in the clutch, and he has faith in them. I think Justin Tatum's still trying to find that lineup, and it would be hard because, as we said, it's clear they've got the best bench in the league. They've helped them get to this point. At one point, I'm thinking their bench is going to help them win this game, but to close it out, that's where you need that poise.
But at the end of the day, when your two guns don't fire, Kell and Harvey, when they don't fire, you're probably not going to win. And it's obvious, when these guys come out shooting the ball and playing great basketball, then you got a chance. But neither one of them were playing like they should have tonight.
And they'd be kicking themselves because no Shea Ely out there. They would have circled this saying, you know, our main opposition's gone. This is on us right now.
And I know Trey Kell had the injury, which was probably at a poor time, but even before that, when Melbourne started to arrest momentum back, that's where you'd like either Tyler Harvey, if Kell's not there, or Trey Kell to say, you know what, after a timeout, let's run this set. Let's get Days back in with Froling. Let's roll it into the post. Everybody move. And Darius Days was unstoppable for a 3-minute stretch there in the third quarter. Hey, let's go back to that. At worst, they're going to foul. We're going to get to the free throw line rather than just trying to blaze away from 3 or get Tyler Harvey open, because you know that United guards are going to continue to fight through. Shea Ely or not, everyone else is going to step up for them defensively.
We've been critical of Jack White throughout the series, and rightly so. Of course, it was, you know, we sound like a broken record. No field goals attempted, no points in game 2. He came out off the bat. It was a great move by Dean Vickman to get him that shot early and run that play. He hits it. He sets himself up for a great night. How much is that going to prove pivotal moving into game 4? It's quite literally gaining a player at this point.
Absolutely it is. 8 for 9 from the field. He was spectacular. And if he can just carry a little of that confidence over to the next game, he's going to be great. We said it before. You have to be aggressive. Even if you miss shots, be aggressive. Go to the glass, rebound the ball, be yourself. He's big and strong, and the bench is with him. Everyone's with him. Every time he scored, they were up cheering him. They know what he's going through, Pete, and so it helped him.
The 8 8 from 9 is remarkable for a guy who didn't take a field goal attempt.
Right.
But it's more so, to be honest, it's the 9 for me. It's the field goal attempts, just getting that many up, and stepped into the 3-ball, knocked it down. Other than game 1 here a couple of weeks ago or last week, he'd been shooting the 3-ball at a high rate all season, especially in the postseason, even with his free throw struggles. So I am still a little surprised they didn't try and test him out late. Marcus Lee had his struggles tonight from the line, but there was that 3-minute stretch where Days and him were just battling it out. They were just throwing their bodies at each other. I love to see that, and I saw Days was getting fired up. White was up for the challenge. That's where I thought maybe Justin Tatum could go to a bit more down the stretch with Days' impact, because he tried to get Todd Blanchfield in. Wasn't his night. Tried to get Young Jong Lee, who had a couple of moments. But again, who's that guy? Who's that lineup you go to where you absolutely need a good shot? Not necessarily a make, but to have the poise. I still think he's trying to tinker with what that is.
And you know what Melbourne did? They took Illawarra out of the game. Illawarra liked to run, right? Melbourne had 11 fast break points. Illawarra had 0. So the tempo was wrong for Illawarra. They like to push it and get it going. Melbourne, with that savvy, did the right thing, shut them down, and that's why they were able to get this win.
As I try to scan this for the turnover count, because it certainly felt throughout the game that Melbourne United looked after the ball throughout. There we go.
10. Well, that's for the Hawks.
10 for the Hawks.
Yeah.
Only 6 turnovers for Melbourne United. Look, in a championship game where defence goes up another notch, that's a really, really good number, especially against a team as good on the break as the Hawks.
And especially with a hostile crowd that they were getting up and about when Illawarra went on that run. You saw that poise. But again, that's the Delhi effect. And we said it to finish the game, but call this entire game 3 when they do a doco, whatever they do to recap it. But this was the Matthew Dellavedova masterclass. He completely took control, and it looked like absolutely nothing rattled him. He continues to play with physicality, picks his moments, understands, you know what, they're guarding Golding and Clark this way. I'm going to have a lob here for Jack White. I'm going to have a lob here for Marcus Lee. They started to roll the ball to Rob Lowe as well. But again, he's been there, he's done that, and you saw that in the clutch moments was more important than anything anyone else could throw from the Hawks.
One of the wildest things to think about across this series is that I think we would all agree that the Hawks have probably percentage of time played better basketball than Melbourne United. Yet Melbourne are 30% of a ball away from being a sweep winner in this championship series. It's remarkable, and it just proves what do the Hawks need to do down the stretch? Because clearly Melbourne United's veteran presence and maybe the taste of defeat from last year is just proving pivotal down the stretch.
The hardest thing probably for Justin Tatum, which it's a blessing throughout the course of the regular season, is his depth. It can be a blessing and a curse, because he's got so many options to turn to that when his 2 guys, their starters, aren't performing. Will Hickey's been unbelievable so far in this championship series. His energy, at times he can be a little erratic, but I think you have to take that with the type of player he is. But he doesn't have that starting 5 or that clutch 5 right now that he gives the full trust to make the right play every time, whereas Dean Vickman has that 5. He knows what it is. It's Matthew Dellavedova, if Shaylee's available, it's him, Golding, Clark, White right now, and then Marcus Lee. I think he's still trying to figure that out. Maybe it's Days. I liked what I saw from Darius Days, but it has to be around Sam Froling. I still think they have a massive advantage with Sam Froling. He was unstoppable again tonight. I'd like to see them use him a bit more in the second half.
You speak about Dean Vickman. You got to remember, Dean Vickman's done this. He's been here and done that. He won championships in New Zealand. He's won championships with Melbourne United. He's been coached in Sydney. He's been all over.
He's won and lost as well. He's been to so many grand final series.
So that experience plays a massive role. Yes, Tatum's a very good coach, and like you said, he's got a great bench and he's got depth. But Dean Vickman knows how to get the best out of his players. He could have 2 players. He's going to get the best out. He's going to drain those guys until they play hard.
And I think you'd probably find that you have some late timeouts there, even in the second half when teams are going on runs, maybe halftime, where for Dean Vickman and Melbourne United, he might not have to say anything, because he knows that Delhi, Golding, Clark, they're probably going to be doing all the talking and what they need to do. Whereas Justin Tatum still has to obviously coach this team, because they've never been in this position before. What are we seeing out there? There's a reason Justin Tatum was Coach of the Year.
Yes.
He's one of the best coaches in this entire league, was the best coach this season. But having to find that in the pressure moments when you have players who haven't had this kind of magnitude game and magnitude performance, it's tough to do on the fly, but you have to forget all that. You've got to go into Melbourne, try and steal another one, and then anything happens in Game 5.
And remember, none of these players have been there and done this. I mean, none of these players have won a championship in the NBL, whereas Melbourne United have guys that have done that. So experience does play a major role.
Well, it definitely, and then sometimes you can see it as almost an apprenticeship. And are we seeing a little bit of that? Like, next year we're going to see the Hawks come in. And the Hawks haven't lost this series by any stretch. Don't take this as we're taking out the Hawks. I think they go and win at John Cain Arena personally. So I think we go to a Game 5 here. But it does kind of, just from what we've seen, feel like a bit of an apprenticeship, saying, hey, you got to taste that defeat before you can get that sort of.
And that happens all the time. I mean, I hate to go back to where we were, but we lost a championship and then won a championship. We lost another one and then we won. It takes some years to get there, and they have the talent. They just got to stick together.
You talk about Game 4, and I actually think Justin Tatum's seen enough now in these first 3 games where he's going to have the perfect game plan to go in there. He understands where they had their lulls, where they fell short, what lineup now he's going to roll with, and they're going to be able to go in there and potentially steal the game. I think that it's weird to say for a team that's down 2-1, but they are well positioned right now because of the shortcomings they've had in these games to learn from them. Terrific coach, terrific roster to go in there and get that game.
Quickly, before we wrap up, do you think Matthew Dellavedova right now is the front runner for Finals MVP?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, that's all we got from NBL now. We're on our way back to Melbourne Wednesday. Going to be live from 7 p.m.
We might as well stay here, man.
Might as well stay here. We're coming back here for a Game 5. Thanks for tuning in.
No thumbnail, no dunk.
Peace.